Hello, everybody. I hope you are safe and well. My name is Sanjay Swami, and I'm the co-founder of MarTech Vibe. Today, we have with us a very special guest who's going to talk to us about data virtualization. Joining us today is Olivier Tijou, Regional VP EMEA and Russia at Denodo. Denodo is the leader in data virtualization, providing agile, high-performance data integration, data abstraction, real-time data services across the broadest range of enterprise, cloud, big data, and unstructured data sources at half the cost of traditional approaches. Olivia, thank you so much for taking the time out today and joining us. I want to begin this interview by asking you, what is data virtualization and why is it so important?
Yeah, thank you, Sanjay, for the introduction. So I'm very glad to be here today and to respond to your question. So before answering your question about data virtualization, I will tell you about why we are coming into the picture today, and I will start by describing what's happening in the data landscape in most of our customers in Europe, in the US, in Africa now, and in Asia. So basically, what happened over the last, I would say, decade was we're coming from a world where the data was managed and stored in like typical, databases. Then came the data warehouse, a solution with some replication beforehand and afterhand, with the notion of data mart. Then came the wave of big data with the implementation of data lake in a lot of organization. Okay, and but the thing is, there was a lot of promise, in the data warehousing, and then with the data lake that was okay. Let's try to put all the data in the same place. Okay, and once we have all the data in the same place, then we're gonna be, very. It's gonna be easy to distribute the data to the business who needs more and more data for the digital transformation. Okay, so that was the idea. And at the end of the day, what happened is the big data technology is fine for a lot of use case, but it didn't replace the previous, data storage applications. So you still have, you have data lakes, but you still have data warehouse, and you still have like legacy databases. You still have some data in SAP and so on and so on. Okay. Moreover, what we see now, the trend is, the big data web is a little bit declining, and now everyone's saying, okay, let's put all the data in the cloud. It's going to be much easier. And what's happening is that there is again this promise that, okay, let's try to put all the data in the cloud. Okay, but at the end of the day, the data is spread over all these different technology. None of them has replaced the previous one. And the situation, has like three main challenges. Okay, the first thing is for the chief data officer, for the data office, it's a nightmare because the data is spread in all those technology, on-prem, in the cloud, big data or data or whatever. It is very challenging to do some governance of this data, to establish who can consume which data in the organization, and to do the traceability. Okay, this is the first one, and this is a nightmare of the CDO. The second is a nightmare of the CIO, the head of IT, who, the thing is that data has been replicated over time, over and over again, and now there are huge challenges on integrating this data between all those technology into the data lake and now into the cloud, and without replacing the data warehouse and so on and so on. And it's a nightmare for those guys to integrate that. It costs a lot of money and has a lot of delay. Okay, and at the end of the day, what we see as the time to data, so the time to deliver the data to the business is usually very long, too long. Like we're talking about weeks, sometimes months, to deliver some new data set to the business, which is unacceptable. And the last thing, the challenge is on the business side, where the guys say, come on, we cannot wait for months to get the data. We need it much more fast, and we need fresh data. We don't want to have some data that has been replicated over time several times, and then at the end of the day, my data is not relevant anymore because it's old. Okay, and this is where we can play into the picture, because the approach we have with data virtualization is to connect to all those different sources. Okay, so the old one, the new one, and so on, and to make the data available without replication, okay, so that the CDO can really manage in real time who can access which data, so that the CIO can really deliver the data much faster, and at the end of the day, the business can get the data they want and a very fresh data. So this is the concept of data virtualization. You can see it as a kind of ultimate enterprise databases without the storage, okay? The storage is being delegated to the different sources, okay?
Right. And when we talk of data virtualization and then we're talking about data, so, my lead up to your answer is, or my lead up question is, how can data virtualization help A, organizations in making most of their big data, and B, how can it help organizations improve their data strategies?
Okay. So the thing is, companies, organizations, so private company or the state-owned company and administration, they have invested a lot in all those technology and in data lakes and now moving to the cloud and so on. But the value to the business usually is quite limited. So the thing is, putting data virtualization on top of that is a way to get the value from those reservoirs, to combine the data from one reservoir with another, without replication. So it's a way really to take advantage of all the investment that have been done and make it much more agile. Okay, so deliver the data in a couple of days instead of weeks or months. Okay, it's a way to really provide this agility which is missing. And the second thing is also to get control back to the, I would say, the security and the governance of the data in real time. Okay, the CDO and the CIO, they need to take control back to this data, which is spread in different technologies, which make it very complex to really control who can do what, and then to trace who has done what. Okay, so at the end of the day, adding data virtualization on top of the ecosystem which is in place is a way to take much faster advantage of what you have invested in, and it's also a way to take control back to the security and the governance. Okay, so it becomes a kind of a booster to your data strategy, so that the CDO can really deliver his mission, the CIO can really focus on a strategy and optimize the cost of the different technology underneath. And it's a way really to deliver much faster to the business who needs more and more data and fresh data.
Great. Would you say there is a difference between data virtualization and data federation tools? How would you differentiate them?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say data federation is a kind of the previous, way to name it. Okay, data virtualization can do some kind of federation, but it does much more things. Okay, it's a way, for example, to expose the data, whatever it's for BI or data science reporting purpose, or to expose the data as an API. So if you want to do a data as a service, I mean, the same virtual data set can be exposed through ODBC, so to be consumed by whatever it's a Tableau, Click, kind of a visualization tool, and on the other side to export this, through API to API management still, and so on. Okay, so when you use data virtualization, you can do much more than purely federation. It has a lot of functionality. For example, there is a data catalog which is part of the platform, which is a way to really search for the data that you need. Okay, and once you have identified some data with this catalog, you'll be able to consume the data, so to make query out of it. So all those kind of feature, plus the traceability, so you'll be able to do some lineage to see where the data come from, and so on and so on. So you have a much broader scope of feature with a virtualization.
Right. And can you give me a couple of use cases of data virtualization?
Okay. So basically, the data virtualization is usually, our customer now more and more, they are identify this data virtualization as a new component in the data architecture. Okay, that is becoming it used to be maybe nice to have like 5 or 8 years ago, but now it's a must-have because you need this component on top of your sources on your in your ecosystem,
Right.
to provide this agility, to all that kind of stuff. And our customer, they say, okay, we like the concept, we test it, we are ready to put it in the target architecture in terms of data. Now we need to start with some use case where we can deliver the value very fast. Okay, so let's take some painful, use case where if I use a traditional way, which is like replication over and over again, it's gonna take too much time or it's gonna take too much money. Okay, so let's try with data virtualization on this particular use case. So example, in the banking industry, we have a lot of use cases around compliance, where you need for for compliance reason, you need to provide some report to the authority with some deadlines. Okay, so for a big insurance company or big banks, they need to gather this data to provide those reports. And if you use it the traditional way, it may take months to provide. So with data virtualization, you can do it very fast. Okay, wherever the data is spread over, and that's the kind of use case where our customer will use. Okay. Second kind of use case is how to have the traditional BI much self-service and much agile. Okay. So our customer, they will introduce data virtualization to make this data available for the reporting. Okay, and we have this notion of virtual data warehouse. Okay, or virtual data lake. Okay, so you decouple actually the consumption of the data from where the data is physically stored. Okay, and that's a big category of use case. So a lot of customers, they're going to virtual data warehouse on top of what they already have. Another category of use case is about putting in place data as a service strategy. So how to be very agile in exposing data set inside the organization or outside of the organization. Okay, it's all about to make your data as an API much faster. So this is also, if you want to data as a service or open data, it's one category of use case as well. And finally, we have a big driver as a use case when it comes to security and governance, meaning that to take control back to how you expose the data, who can use which data, and how to trace the data is a big driver. And our customers, they like to have a unified way to manage the access of the data. Okay, and that's a big driver. We see that a lot in the industry. We see that a lot in the banks and in administration as well too, in that way.
Right. And my final question to you is, why is data virtualization vital for the West African market right now?
Okay, that's a good point. The trend we see in other region, in Europe or in the US or in Asia, or similar in West Africa, I think the challenge in getting control again to the access of the data is very important, and also to control where access of the data is really what we provide in a very agile way. And it's a question of authority. So you want to control where I put my data. And for example, we have customers, they have data in on-prem. For some of them, they have data in one cloud provider and they have data in another cloud provider. Okay, right. And they are virtualizing the access to the data, so that if, I don't know, they have a vendor for cloud which is from China, another one is from the US, maybe they want to have this flexibility to decide, okay, tomorrow I may change of a cloud provider, okay, but I still have the control, the access of the data. Okay, so in terms of authority and for those companies, and I guess especially in West Africa, it's very crucial. Okay, to really have everything under control and not to depend too much on some different vendors from around the world. Okay, and obviously, in West Africa, finally, I mean, the trend on digitalization, and we've seen that in the terrible, COVID crisis that we're going through. Data has never been, so important. So make the data available, especially during crisis, when things going down and then when things are coming up again, to have access to the data in real time is very critical, more than ever. Okay, and that's, of course, it applies very well, obviously, to the West Africa organization.
Right. So with that, we come to an end of this interview. Thank you for your insights, Olivier. I think it was great having you with us and talking about data virtualization. So thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you for your time and your question. Thank you very much.
So if for our subscribers and for everyone who's watching the video right now, if you want to know more about data virtualization and how it can help solve your big data problems, please register for the Data and Analytics Virtual Summit West Africa, happening on the 15th and 16th of July, where Olivier and his team will be presenting a customer case study. And with this, like I said, we come to an end of the interview. Thank you for joining us today, Olivier. I'm going to see you soon.
Thank you very much.